This video will deal with my favorite topic in metaphysics, composition. The special composition question was posed by Peter Van Inwagen. This video is a very simple introduction to an incredibly, surprisingly difficult topic. Here's two versions that capture the essence of the issue. What counts as a thing, or what makes something an object? It seems very simple at first. If you look around, you see objects and you know they're objects. But do you know why they're objects? What needs to happen to the parts to make a new thing? What do the parts need to do to make a whole? I'm going to show you an object, and it's not a trick question. I just want you to take a look and tell me what you intuitively think. What is this? Would you state that this is a snail? Maybe it's not a real biological snail, but it's a snail, and we can point to this object and say, this is a snail. Do you think that this is two objects? Is this both one object, Play-Doh, and another object, a snail? What happens if I smash this? Now we just have a ball of Play-Doh. So it's still an object, it's Play-Doh. Would you say that that snail object was never really a snail? It was always just one object. It was always just Play-Doh. You can apply this to anything. Think of a statue. If you see a statue outside, you're just going to probably think, look at that statue right there. It's an object. It's a statue. But let's say it's also composed of marble. So at the end of the day, is it just marble in the form of a statue? If we smash the statue is gone, but the marble is still persisting. So what exactly does it take for us to start seeing the parts of something as a whole of something? Did we really create a new object by making a statue or by making a shape out of Play-Doh? Or did we really not create anything at all? It seems very unintuitive for you to go outside and see a statue and think that that's not a statue, that's just marble. Just like it's unintuitive to see the Play-Doh snail and think, that's not a Play-Doh snail, that's just Play-Doh. Some people might say there was a snail and there was Play-Doh. There were technically two things there. There were two objects. Other people might say that it was always just one thing. It was always just Play-Doh. It was never really a real separate entity. We might say that X is equal to Y in this case. The snail shape object and the smashed version, the clay, the Play-Doh itself, are one and the same. Then how come when I smashed the snail and got rid of it, I didn't get rid of the Play-Doh? The Play-Doh is still here. It's right here. Where'd the snail go? Or would you maybe say that the snail never existed? There was no snail. There was only ever Play-Doh. We can intuitively see that something's an object or it isn't, but why? What did it take for the parts to become a whole? So let's do another visualization. Let's say these are 3 parts of something. You can imagine these are 3 parts of anything. So you could see it as Play-Doh, or you can imagine it's 3 pieces of wood. What would I need to do with these 3 things in order to make a stool? So what I'll do is mold these 3 things together and see what we come up with. Here is, let's say, a makeshift table or a makeshift stool. It's not the best version, but just to give you an idea of what's going on here. What had to happen for me to take these 3 imaginary wooden pieces and to take this top flat piece of Play-Doh and now create what we'll call a stool? What we have is the pieces, but they're nothing right now. They're just a heap of parts. The first thing you might think of is they simply just need to touch and be in contact. See, I just put them in contact. I fused the Play-Doh together. Or if you're making a chair, you may have screwed the parts together. If you think that the way we make a new object is simply by somehow bonding the parts, putting them in contact, fusing them, gluing them together, screwing them together, then would you say that if I put glue on my hand right now and put it on the board and fused it, that I would now count as a new object? Is this a Bella chalkboard object that I just created? But intuitively, you know that I did not just create a new object. We are still 2 objects, 2 separate objects. But if you do the same thing and you take the parts and you put them in contact, if you glue or mold certain parts together, you create a new object. You can create a chair, a table. You can create any shape you want out of Play-Doh. What had to happen for the marble to be deemed a new object that we'll call a statue? What did I have to do to the Play-Doh to create a new object that we will call a snail? But what's important about the initial example with the Play-Doh and the snail is that one of them could be destroyed, but it didn't go anywhere. So does that mean it was really only ever Play-Doh? It was never something else? How would you now take that same analogy and apply it to a chair? Let's say we have a wooden chair and we completely dismantle it. Now, we can't exactly say that that thing was never a chair, it was just wood. We knew it was a chair. We referred to it as a chair, and we've seen it as its own object. When we dismantle the parts, where did the chair go? Was it ever a chair, or was it simply just wood? When I smashed the snail, where did it go? you then have to maybe say, there was never a chair. All it was some material, wood, arranged to look like a chair. Or there was never really a snail. There was never really a statue. There was just the medium that it was made out of, wood or marble or clay. But that's not intuitive, is it? Because when you look around, you see objects that are independent. When we break the chair, it's no longer a chair, now it's just wood. If I want to put it back together, what needs to happen? Because it can't just be putting the parts in contact or screwing them together or gluing them together. Because if that's what it takes to create an object, then if I were to screw my hand into the chalkboard or glue it here or fuse it here somehow, you would need to then admit that I just created a new object. Or maybe the floor I'm standing on, I'm in contact with it. Did I just create an object with the floor, which is also in contact with all these other things? So everything's just one object through transitivity? Can we even create new things? Or are they just things that we are interpreting symbolically and giving names and giving purposes to? So I'm curious what you think the solution to the special composition question is.